Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SRHM podcast, which explores new research and emerging trends in the field of sexual and reproductive health and rights, with a focus on using rights-based knowledge for action.
Good afternoon. My name is Eszter Kismodi. I'm a Chief Executive of Sexual and Reproductive Health Matters, SRHM, and I'm very pleased to welcome Gustavo Ortiz Millán here at the SRHM podcast today, who is the Editor-in-Chief of Bioética UNAM, a freshly published and launched bioethics journal in Latin America. Hello, Gustavo.
Hello, Eszter. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's a great pleasure to welcome you and the journal. Can you tell a couple of words about the journal and what was the main motivation behind the creation of Bioética UNAM?
Yeah, sure. We're very happy to launch this new journal because, UNAM, the National University of Mexico, it's one of the biggest universities. It's certainly the biggest university and the most important university in Mexico, but it's also one of the most important universities in Latin America and probably in the world. It's ranked very high in the rankings of universities. And for a long time, we wanted to have a bioethics journal. We have a bioethics program, and the journal depends on the bioethics program. And we have been working for 15 years or more in bioethics. And some people tried to launch different journals in the past, but they didn't work. And now we thought that it was the right time to have a new bioethics journal. And we're very happy that the first issue was launched this year at the beginning of 2025. And it's an online journal. So it's open access. Everybody can read it. So we're very happy about that.
Really sincere congratulations. It's really an amazing addition to the academic field and beyond. Can you say that the journal itself is situated at the university that is placed in Mexico, but how this journal position itself in relation to other academic bioethics and publication, both in Latin America and beyond?
Sure. In Mexico, for a long time, there have been bioethics programs, but mostly in private religious universities and with a certain tendency, let's say. Yeah, so it was very important for us to have a journal of this kind in a public university like UNAM to balance the perspective that sometimes people get of bioethics. And there are many issues now in Latin America, many issues in bioethics being discussed in different topics, environmental ethics, animal ethics, sexual and reproductive ethics, the impact of artificial intelligence in different fields, in medicine, in other fields. There are discussions going on about euthanasia, about medical ethics, neuroethics, you name it. It's many different fields. And there are many things happening. These are topics of urgent discussion. So we want to contribute to this discussion. The journal is not aimed only at an academic public. We want different people taking decisions at different levels, politicians, professionals, healthcare professionals, for instance, to read the journal. Yeah, it's an academic journal, and we want to keep our standards very high, but we want to have an impact on different fields.
Yeah, SRHM is a sexual and reproductive health and rights-oriented organization. We also have a journal. We also experience that the world is facing incredible challenges, both from the perspective of politics, also from the perspective, as you said, AI and technology. Can you say a little bit more about the actuality of the journal and maybe connect it a little bit to your first issue, that what kind of articles are you expecting? What is your main interest? How it connects to our current challenges and environment, both in bioethics and maybe also in relation a little bit to sexual and reproductive health?
Yeah, this is a bioethics generalist journal, let's say. So bioethics is a very big field, and we want to cover different discussions. Mostly, we want to publish articles about what's going on in Mexico and Latin America, yes, but also in the world. And that's why the journal is published in Spanish, but also in English. So whatever we get in Spanish, we publish in Spanish. If we get something in English, we publish it in English. So it's important that people know this so they can send us their papers, their manuscripts. And we wanted to help us to project, let's say, what's going on in bioethics in Latin America. Latin American bioethics is very active, especially in certain fields, such as sexual and reproductive health. There have been lots of discussions about abortion, about surrogacy, about assisted reproduction in general. And the thing is that we wanted to have an impact on the legal level, let's say, on laws, because there's a vacuum in terms of laws regarding, for instance, assisted reproduction in Latin America. Yeah. Whereas in some countries in Europe, for instance, or the US, there have been laws regarding assisted reproduction since the 1980s. In many countries in Latin America, there have been vacuums in this regard. Yeah, so we want to promote the discussion, and we wanted to have an impact on people taking decisions at different levels.
So as you explain, it's multidisciplinary. So authors can submit both from religious, philosophical, legal, human rights perspective. Any different type of angles is welcomed by the journal as it connects to the broader discipline of bioethics.
Yeah, right. And something I want to be very emphatic about is that we're open to different points of view, different perspectives. I think we're living in a time when free speech is threatened, where people are afraid of talking about certain topics. So we want to be very respectful about different points of views, but we would like people to send us papers, even if these are controversial issues. Yeah, I know that people are afraid of talking about some religious or political or gender issues, for instance. And we want to welcome different perspectives so we can contribute to debates that are very necessary these days.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the submission process? So how to submit papers? What is your peer review process? Do you have author publishing charge? Is it open access? Can you tell a little bit more about the journal processing of articles?
Yes, certainly. Well, we have a website. The journal is published in digital format and it's open access. So people don't have to pay in order to get to the papers, to the articles. UNAM is a public university. UNAM publishes more than 120 different journals, and all of them are open access. And some of them are ranked very high in the rankings of journals. You know, people are very interested about these things, especially in academia, where you have to publish in top journals. It has been very hard for us to get articles for the first issues because of this precisely, because it's a new journal. And since it's a new journal, at least for the first issue, we didn't have an ISSN number, and we're not in the rankings. We're not in all the indexes because it's a new journal and it's impossible to be ranked from the very beginning. So people say, well, I'm going to wait for you to be in these rankings so I can send you a paper.
Yeah.
But of course, we're never going to be in these rankings if we don't get papers first. So I ask people to trust us so we can get papers. I think I promise you that we're going to work very, very hard to get the journal to these rankings and be ranked very high. But going back to your question, there's no payment. You don't have to pay in order to get published. And well, it's completely free. UNAM has a very solid platform for projecting our journals. So
It's a continuous publishing. So if I submit a paper, you process it and put it online, or you are waiting for the year issue to be closed, or it's a continuous publication?
It's a continuous publication.
Okay.
Yeah, so as soon as the paper gets accepted, it's going to be published.
Great.
And it's a double-blind peer review process.
Fantastic.
We're thinking about different options for reviewing papers. I know open reviews are very popular these days. So we have in mind these different processes, but for the moment, it's double-blind peer review.
Can you tell a little bit? It's very exciting. I was very excited to see the first papers, and thanks to technology, it's really easy. I don't speak Spanish, but it's very easy to put it in translation, and the translation is pretty great. Can you tell more about the composition of the papers? What excites you about this first issue and first composition of papers? I can see that several papers are up, even if we are only at May 2025 and you launched at the end of 2024.
Yeah, sure. I'm very excited about the papers we published in this first issue. First, because we got different papers from different parts of the world. We got papers from Argentina, from Mexico, one paper from South Africa. And these are papers that are discussing some very important issues. For instance, we got a paper from Argentina where people have been debating about the anonymity of gamete donation. This is a very hot topic, and there are no laws in most of Latin America and probably most of the world. And there have been regulations on these issues. And something very important to discuss about is the anonymity of gamete donation, of a sperm or egg donation for assisted reproduction. So here we have a paper that argues for or against the anonymity of gamete donation. Children have a right to know their genetic origin, their genetic identity. And it's a very well-written paper, very well argued, and examines what's going on in the debates in Argentina about this issue. Super interesting paper. There is another paper about the use of artificial intelligence or the ethical implications of using artificial intelligence to manipulate or enhance natural ecosystems and biodiversity. This one we published in English is a paper we got from South Africa. Super interesting. I highly recommend this paper. And something else that I want to add is that we plan to have a section for debates about the papers that have been published in the journal, or about also books that have been published around these issues of bioethics.
We are certainly very excited to promote your journal and the platform that your journal provides for discussion, and encouraging our sexual and reproductive health and rights audience to send you thinking pieces that is also very much in the interest of our knowledge space as we are going forward to promote sexual and reproductive health and rights and influence policies and actions. If you think about 5 years from now, you just started, the first 5 articles are up. You don't have yet an indexing, but we are hoping for a very nice high indexing. So more and more authors, academics will be interested in publishing with the journal. And we are also hoping for collaboration with our journal as well. Where would you like to see the journal 5 years from now? Or how would you like to influence the field of bioethics and the broader field of our concerns around ethical, bioethical issues around the world as in its diversity?
Well, in 5 years from now, I would like to see this journal in the rankings. First of all, it's an academic journal, and we want to attract people from different places and different fields in academia. We want it to have an influence on the bioethical discussion in Latin America, in Mexico, and in the world. But also, I would like it to have an impact on different discussions in these fields. Bioethics, our aim as bioethicists is to influence public discussions on abortion, on animal rights, on the environment, on medicine. I would like the journal to be cited by people drafting laws, for instance, taking public policy decisions, And I would like people to say, well, this is something I read in this journal, and now it's influencing practical decisions in this field.
I'm personally very excited because as a young lawyer, first nurse, then a young lawyer, there was no human rights or ethics education in law schools or in general, only in the medical school in Hungary when I was graduating. And my first introduction to human rights ethical issues was actually in bioethics by a great Hungarian bioethicist, Béla Prassauer, and then it led me to go to the human rights field. So I truly believe that bioethics can influence so many disciplinary thinking, action, and motivation to make this world better in as many ways as possible. Is there anything else, Gustavo, that you would like to tell our audience before we are closing the conversation?
Well, I would like to encourage people to send us papers, to collaborate with us. We want to have papers not only from Mexico or Latin America, but also from different countries in the world. Bioethical problems are universal, and bioethics is universal, even though there are different perspectives. Of course, I would like to project Latin American bioethics. If there's something we can really call Latin American bioethics, we would have to discuss about this, of whether bioethics is something we can talk about in these terms, namely whether there is a Latin American perspective on bioethics or something properly Latin American about this. But I think bioethics is universal. The problems are basically the same in different places, but the realities are different. And the way people see these problems is different. And we can learn from each other. Yeah, we can learn from what's going on in Africa, in Europe, in Asia. Yeah, so I think people can learn about what's going on in Latin America, especially related to your interests in sexual and reproductive health. There are many things going on these days in Latin America. Laws are changing very fast. And I think certainly we have been learning Latin American countries from each other. So I think in the same way we can learn from other countries, other realities.
Thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to our collaboration and continued publicity for the journal. And I wish you all the best and looking forward more conversation about specific papers. And we certainly will encourage our sexual and reproductive health rights communities to reach out to the journal for publication and collaboration. Thank you so much, Gustavo, for this podcast conversation.
It has been lovely. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this insightful conversation. Please check the show notes for a link to the SRHM Journal, which is available online and open access. Follow us on social media and sign up for our newsletter to receive notifications for new publications. If you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, give us a rating, or leave a review. Sharing evidence-based and rights-grounded knowledge is our passion, and it's also critical to support the advocacy and actions that need to be taken to improve SRHR for all. We would very much appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the SRHM podcast, which is produced by our staff. The music was composed by Tiber Christian and Salomon Beautombe.